All right, so today we are diving into some pretty interesting stuff, actually. It's the world of MrBeast, but we're not just talking about the viral videos that you've seen. You sent over some articles about some of the controversies that have been swirling around him lately, and it seems like you're really looking for the why behind the what. Like, what's the big deal here beyond just the headlines?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing here is actually much bigger than just one YouTuber, right? This is about like the growing pains of influencer culture itself.
Yeah.
Where massive online empires are kind of built almost overnight, and the rules of the game are honestly still being written as we go.
Yeah, for sure. And like nowhere is that more apparent than with the Beast games, right? His like crazy ambitious competition show on Amazon Prime. Remember that announcement tweet?
Yeah.
Thousands of contestants, millions of dollars on the line, this promise of like breaking world records. It was pure hype.
Oh, absolutely. MrBeast knows how to tap into like our desire for the extraordinary, the scale, the life-changing prizes, the sheer spectacle of it all. Really brilliant marketing. But, when you compare that to like the alleged reality on the ground, a very different story starts to unfold.
Yeah, and that's where those articles from contestants come in, right? They paint a very different picture. Janae Rady, one of the participants, she described a level of disorganization that's honestly pretty shocking considering the scope of this whole production.
Yeah, like inadequate food and water, difficulty accessing medication, sleeping conditions that sound more like a low-budget festival than a multi-million-dollar production. These are serious allegations, especially when you consider the physical demands that were placed on these contestants.
Yeah, and Reedy even shared what she was given for dinner one night. A hard-boiled egg, some cucumber, a sliver of celery, a couple of baby carrots, and like a tiny portion of plain oatmeal.
Wow, and remember, these contestants are like pushing themselves to the limit in these challenges.
Yeah.
Take, for instance, the boulder incident.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, picture this. Teams of 400 people tasked with working together to move a 10,000-pound boulder using this complex pulley system. The goal was to move it a certain distance. Even in theory, it just sounds chaotic.
One contestant described it as a mosh pit, just to get their team jerseys. People were jostling for position. Tensions were high. And reportedly, someone even had a panic attack before the challenge even started.
And then during the boulder challenge itself, things went downhill fast. People were allegedly tripping, falling, getting tangled in the ropes. Reedy and another contestant who wishes to remain anonymous claimed that someone even got the rope wrapped around their neck. And the most disturbing part, they alleged that production was urging everyone to just keep pulling.
And this is where the conversation shifts from one show's logistical failures to something much bigger. This incident really shines a light on like a systemic issue within reality TV and content creation as a whole. This pressure to prioritize the spectacle, that viral moment, over the well-being and safety of everyone involved.
And you have to wonder as viewers, are we contributing to that pressure? We're drawn to the bigger, crazier, more outrageous content. It's what makes MrBeast so captivating, but at what cost?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line? When does the desire for entertainment cross over into exploitation? It's a question we all have to grapple with as consumers and participants in this digital landscape.
Yeah, it's definitely complex. And unfortunately, the Beast Games controversy is only part of the story here. You also wanted to understand the allegations against Ava Chris Tyson, a close friend and collaborator of MrBeast. And these are serious accusations.
And this is where the issue of power dynamics takes center stage. To be clear, Tyson has denied all allegations against them. But the fact that these accusations exist, coupled with Tyson's close relationship with MrBeast and their previous position within his company, requires us to look at how power can manifest and be potentially abused even in online spaces.
Especially when you consider the specific dynamics between Tyson and one of the accusers, Jess. She was working as Tyson's assistant, and that's where this gets really complicated. Jess, a trans woman, has said that Tyson, who was still closeted at the time, confided in her about their own transition.
This created a deeply personal and potentially vulnerable dynamic. Jess had recently come out publicly as a trans woman herself. It's a situation ripe for an abuse of power, whether intentional or not.
And according to Jess, the situation escalated from there, with Tyson allegedly pressuring her into sexual acts, using their position as her boss as leverage. Imagine being in that position. It's a lot to unpack. We'll be right back after a quick break. So before the break, we're really getting into the allegations against Ava Chris Tyson and how this situation with MrBeast really brings to light the potential for power imbalances within these online communities, and it's a lot to process.
It really is. And it forces us to consider how these dynamics, might prevent people from speaking out.
Yeah.
Think about it in the world of online content creation, your career. Your connections, even your sense of community, are often tied to the person you're accusing.
And especially when you consider that, like, the influencer world thrives on image, right? Like, calling out someone with MrBeast's level of influence, someone you might even consider a friend, could feel career-ending.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to create spaces where people feel safe to come forward, regardless of who's involved. It's about believing those who do speak out and understanding the incredible courage it takes to challenge those power structures.
Yeah, for sure. And just when you thought this situation couldn't get any more complicated, old videos of MrBeast himself using offensive language resurfaced online, and it adds another layer to this whole conversation.
Oh yeah, talk about a PR nightmare. It's a stark reminder that the internet never forgets. And it raises questions about how we as viewers respond when someone we enjoy watching is accused of wrongdoing, especially when that wrongdoing involves harmful language.
And these weren't just like isolated incidents either. We're talking about a pattern of behavior.
Right.
Let's listen to some of those clips now.
Okay.
It's important to note that these clips are from several years ago when MrBeast was younger. He has since apologized for these videos, calling them ignorant, youthful mistakes. But that brings up a whole other set of questions.
Right. It makes you think, are apologies enough? Can people truly change? And even if someone has demonstrably changed their behavior, do those past actions negate their current success? There are no easy answers here.
It's a lot to unpack. And it's tough because for many, MrBeast's brand was built on positivity and generosity. To see this other side of him, this history of offensive language, it forces kind of a reassessment of that image.
Exactly. And it underscores a crucial point about influencer culture. It's often a carefully constructed persona. Actions, both past and present, can challenge those narratives we buy into. It's a reminder to look beyond the carefully curated image and consider the whole picture.
It makes you wonder, is this like a MrBeast problem or is it an influencer problem? This whole situation really exposes the lack of regulation and accountability within the influencer industry as a whole.
That's a really insightful point. Because unlike traditional media, where there are established labor laws, codes of conduct, systems of accountability, the influencer space is still very much the Wild West. And that creates a breeding ground for exploitation, whether it's unfair working conditions or abuses of power.
It's a good point. And I think it's easy for viewers, especially younger viewers, to forget that behind these viral videos are real people. Real lives are impacted by the decisions made by these creators and their teams.
It's easy to get caught up in the spectacle of it all. But we have to remember these videos, these controversies, they involve real people just like you. And those people deserve to be treated with respect, fairness, and dignity. And as viewers, we have a role to play in demanding that.
It's interesting to hear you connect influencer culture to things like labor laws. We often talk about how it feels distinct from traditional media, but it's impactful to think about those parallels.
It's true. It really matters. When we're talking about productions as massive as MrBeast's, it's not just about one person's behavior, right? It's about the systems that are in place, the safeguards or the lack thereof that can either protect or exploit the people involved.
Right, and that's a conversation that really goes beyond just MrBeast. This is about the entire influencer landscape, which feels like it's kind of evolving before our eyes.
Absolutely. And a big part of that evolution is us, the viewers. We're not just passive consumers of content anymore. We have a voice and we have a choice in who we support and what we watch.
It's about being more conscious of what we're consuming and why. Because it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a giveaway or a wild stunt. But those things come at a cost, and sometimes that cost is hidden behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's where I think critical thinking comes in. We can enjoy the entertainment aspect while also asking the tough questions, right? Who is benefiting from this content? Who might be at risk? What systems are in place to ensure fairness and ethical treatment?
Right, it's like anything else, really. We can be fans of something without blindly supporting every aspect of it. It's okay to love MrBeast's videos while also acknowledging the serious concerns being raised about the environment he's created.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of nuanced thinking is what's going to help push the influencer industry in a more sustainable and ethical direction.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways you hope listeners will walk away with?
Well, I think first and foremost, remember that every viral video, every post, represents a choice. We have more power than we realize to shape this landscape. Secondly, don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. If something doesn't feel right, dig deeper. And finally, believe those who do speak out about injustices, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Right. It's about all of us holding each other accountable, creators and viewers alike. Because ultimately, a healthier, more equitable influencer landscape benefits everyone.
Couldn't agree more. And it's definitely a conversation that requires ongoing attention
and a willingness to engage with the complexities. And based on the articles you sent, it seems like you're already thinking critically about these issues. So keep asking those questions and keep pushing for a better future for everyone involved in this, rapidly changing world of online content creation.